Hi class, so my multicultural presentation is going to be on Greece. My group, we have myself and Jacob in the group. I'm going to be explaining to you a little bit about the history, traditions and the different kinds of foods in Greece and the factors that influence their sort of food choices. So Greece's culture already has a long history of traditions and foods, especially with foods. They consider food and agriculture to be very important in their society, and they're sort of teaching that as they go on constantly. Greece, as a country on the map, is situated on the tip of the Balkan Peninsula, and it's sort of surrounded by other continents such as Africa, Asia, Europe, and it's a country that's sort of surrounded by oceans, which allows for rain. Also, in certain times of the season, it's a hot country, but it also allows for humidity in some parts, which allows for different types of fruits to be produced as well as different types of vegetables. Greece historically has always derived some of their foods from other Arab countries, such as Turkey and Persia, formerly Persia, now is known as Iran, but formerly Persia. And they were able to get stuff like yogurt and different types of cheeses and things like olives as well. They were already sort of being cultivated and produced, so they were able to sort of form that into their own sort of cuisine. Also, thanks to their push for agriculture, like they really consider farming a very important industry in their society. So that allows for constantly new and fresh fruits and vegetables, always being refreshed. So restaurants are never short of that resource to get fresh fruits and vegetables constantly. So I'm going to be moving on about some of the different types of foods in Greece, traditional foods, what they might eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So Greeks typically, they don't really consider breakfast to be the most important meal of the day, but what they will do is normally they will have like a biscuit and a tea for breakfast. So they'll have like a tea with a biscuit called paksimati, which is like a sort of like a traditional shortbread type of a biscuit that they'll have with the tea. But traditionally, breakfast isn't really considered to be the most important meal of their day. So there's a couple foods that might be deemed as important for lunch and dinner, but it really doesn't matter in terms of what you have for lunch and dinner. But one of the foods is dolmades, which is basically spiced rice and a type of meat or a fish inside and wrapped around vine leaves or grape leaves, and that's like a popular dish that is enjoyed throughout Greece, all over Greece. There's a dish called moussaka, which is sort of lasagna, like a Greek lasagna. It's layered with ground lamb, it's layered with cheese, and it's also layered with eggplant. So it's sort of like their own version of that. And of course, you can't forget olives. It's a staple to their meal, as well with feta cheese is also a staple to their meal as well. Those two are almost a never forget in any meal situation. They're very important. As far as dessert, which is something I'll be going over lastly, for dessert, they have a couple of things, but something that is enjoyed very, very often, and not just Greece, but other Mediterranean countries as well, is baklava, which is something I enjoy as well. Actually, I love it. It's chopped walnut with cinnamon and choice of honey or sugar, depending on the region of where you go. And it's basically layered with thin layers of phyllo, which is very, very thin pastry, sort of what you would see in pie, but maybe even thinner. So I'll be moving the presentation over to my friend Jacob, and thank you for listening.
That was Brian Min.
Okay, Opa, welcome to my section on the nutrition project on Greece. First of all, comparing the Canadian to Greek food plan, very different. First of all, the Canadian plan is mainly broken up into 3 categories. You have fruits and vegetables, which it is recommended you take up about half of your diet eating those, and then the other half is divided into grains and proteins. So pretty limited, only really 3 main food groups they recommend. The Greek one, on the other hand, is very specific. It uses a food pyramid instead of sort of a pie graph, as a Canadian one does. So serving sizes, the Greek plan does not include serving sizes. It divides what you should be eating into 3 categories: things you should be eating daily, weekly, and monthly. The Canadian food guide only has 3 main categories. The Greek one has 11. It's built in a pyramid structure. So Greeks has not updated their food guide since 2014. So one of the main differences between the Greek and Canadian food guide is that the Greek one is a lot more specific. It includes more food groups, more specific food groups, and what you should be eating daily, weekly, and monthly. Another big difference is that it's a lot more realistic, I'd say, and sustainable. So in terms of fats, no surprise, the Greek diet or Mediterranean diet puts a lot of emphasis on olive oil. The Canadian food plan doesn't really specify any oil you should be eating. Probably wants you to limit your oil intake, if anything. So there are a lot of health benefits to consuming olive oil. It does tell you that you should be consuming it daily. It doesn't tell you how much. It's a bit confusing because it has olive oil right above fruits and vegetables. So some concerns about the diet are it does include alcohol. It tells you to drink wine in moderation, which can have health benefits, antioxidants. Obviously, consuming alcohol can have negative health effects. But that just goes back to the diet being a bit more realistic and grounded from the Canadian one. It tells you, look, if you're going to indulge, here's the healthiest way to do it. If you're going to consume oil, consume olive oil. If you're going to consume alcohol, have wine, and doing it in moderation. So another concern about the Greek diet is the limited amount of protein it tells you to consume. It divides proteins into various categories. It doesn't tell you what you should be consuming daily, or that you even should be consuming protein daily. So in terms of some strengths, they're very high fruit and vegetable intake. It does tell you to have slightly more vegetables than fruits. Also putting emphasis on greens. Another strength is limiting red meat consumption to once a month. Red meat can have health benefits such as increasing iron levels, but it can be less healthy than consuming other animal proteins such as fish and poultry. Another benefit of the food plan is that it does recommend you exercise daily. It's more of a lifestyle thing. The Canadian food guide does not recommend this. It's more just about food intake. Another strength of the Greek food plan is that it encourages you to drink plenty of water. This is also included in the Canadian food guide. It says beverage of choice should be water, and the Greek food guide limits the intake of salt and tells you to replace it with other herbs and spices. So in terms of nutrition-based health in Greece, it's not horrible, it's not great either. The life expectancy in Greece is 81. In Canada, it's 82, so it's about the same. The obesity rates are about 40%. That's decent. I know it's a lot higher in the United States, but it's about 50%. And one thing that is high could be due to the high oil intake in the Greek diet is the heart attack rate, which is the second highest out of any EU state. In terms of where to get Greek food in Toronto, Toronto has a Greek town in the Danforth full of Greek restaurants and stores, grocers, so if any Greek food needs can be satisfied in the Danforth, in Toronto's Greek town. In terms of where to buy food to make yourself, groceries for the Greek cuisine can be bought about anywhere at any large or normal grocer. It's pretty basic things, olive oil. They use a lot of lamb in their diet. Just basic proteins. It's not similar to a lot of Asian cuisines, which have a lot of specialty foods where you need to go specifically to Asian food market to get. So thank you very much. That concludes our project on Greek nutrition.